is Carrie Ann Simmons, and joining me is Samina Merchant. You're watching this recording as part of our graduate course requirement for INST 6137. In this video, Samina and I will be discussing how our three MOOCs apply to the NACOL standards I and J. And so we'll begin by introducing those standards. So Samina, do you want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. This standards I and J, and standard I was for the online teacher demonstrate competency in using data from assessments and other data sources to modify content and to guide student learning. And standard J was about the online teacher interacts in a professional, effective manner with colleagues, parents, and other members of the community to support student success. So, Carrie, did you want to go ahead and discuss your readings as far as what you thought about what you applied in your INACOL standards?
Sure. So from my understanding that instructor competency in using data is really focused around instructors being able to look at how students perform on assessments, whether they be formal, informal, formative, what have you, and then the instructor adapting the instruction from there to make sure that students are really learning the information and really getting everything they're supposed to get out of the course. Was that kind of what your understanding was too?
Yeah, I also agree with what you're saying. When it came to competencies, I just feel that the role of an online instructor has expanded so much these days. An instructor, especially an online instructor, is not just a social lead in the classroom anymore. They're also an evaluator, they're a counselor, they're advisors, they're researchers, they're technologists. So they really have to go beyond just providing or creating the content and also being knowledgeable in multiple areas as far as the competencies are concerned.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like the data collection piece is really important in online instruction because as a classroom teacher, which I think both you and I have experience with, you can gather sort of informal data just from interacting with a student, whether it's their facial expression or it's a note they jotted down or something you see they didn't write down or they wrote down incorrectly. Sort of like the idea of a student doing a math problem and getting the wrong answer. And as the teacher, you can see exactly what step they got off track. Well, if you're an online teacher, it's a lot harder to see that thought process. And so gathering the data is much more important, I think, because you don't have any FaceTime.
Exactly. And I do think that in MOOCs that engagement is definitely lacking. And even if an online instructor is teaching a MOOC course, for example, how much student engagement is there really? How much can they measure that the student engagement is there? And really, what is the motivation like for the student as well as for the instructor, because they're trying to deal with that many students at the same time. So, as humans, we need that feedback, that interaction from each other. And I think as far as MOOCs are concerned, there's definitely a lot of upscaling that it needs to create that student engagement.
Yeah, I agree. And actually that kind of flows perfectly into what my overarching feedback is about my MOOCs for standard I, which again is about instructor competency in using data to guide student learning. So, I mean, what I jotted down really in reference to all of my MOOCs is it's very possible that the instructors have used data from previous courses to adapt and modify the MOOC that I'm now participating in. But I have no way of knowing that, and the course that I'm currently within, I haven't seen any evidence of an instructor getting data from myself or any of the other students and making adaptations based on that data.
Right. And I would agree with you along the same way. Even the MOOCs that I am taking, I feel that there is no feedback or data collection. The only data collection was really just a beginning survey that I had to take, and that really wouldn't be able to tell much to an instructor as far as what my learning habits are,
Mm-hmm.
or what my learning goals are. So I felt that the data collection component definitely is lacking at this point.
Mm-hmm.
As far as instructor professionalism, which was also part of one of our readings, the last one, I felt that as far as an instructor trying to be professional in the classroom, I think all of my MOOCs did have very credible instructors who knew what they were doing. They definitely have their concept of teaching down. Some of the self-paced courses were just sort of on your own type courses where I'm just doing it on my own, but there's hardly any kind of engagement. But the professionalism as far as delivery of the content is there. But I feel that the professionalism can really go as far as when an instructor can really criticize his or her own way of teaching and delivering the content, and be able to go back and apply that into their learning. And I think that's really definitely where instructor professionalism can improve for teachers who are teaching massive classes online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest piece that I was happy to see was that even though there was very little interaction in the MOOCs, there definitely is professionalism. I mean, everything is done, it's edited well. It doesn't look like it was thrown together. The video links they all worked, and, things like that were professionally done. And from the brief biographies of my professors that are online, they all seem to be actual professors or very knowledgeable in their content area. I certainly haven't seen any negative comments or, rudeness in the comments from the professors. So there's professionalism in that manner. As far as whether they know how to or engage in their own self-development, their own professional development, obviously I have no idea if that's happening. The standard says the teacher interacts in a professional, effective manner with colleagues, parents, and other members of the community. I mean, it's hard. It's so hard in the MOOC. It's really not, it's not what I'm used to as far as an online class. All of our online classes, at least mine through UHCL, this standard has definitely been met, but through the MOOCs, it really has not.
I definitely agree with you. I think that knowing an end goal for the student is so important, as well as for the instructor to be able to drive their courses, and for students to also know that this is an end goal that they have to achieve, and this is how they need to communicate with their instructor to get there. And at this time, MOOCs are definitely not the way to go. If I wanted to, of course, take a full-fledged course, I would sign up at a local university versus try to be figuring out my roadmap if I'm trying to go for a higher degree. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, at least these courses are out there, and the world can take advantage of them. So I think that's definitely a plus for what we have right now, and hopefully it will just keep on getting better in the future.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's really good potential. I think it has a good base and that it has a lot of upward possibilities. So
yes, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this broadcast about our MOOCs and about our INACOL standards. And we will be back next week with some more standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Bye-bye.
Bye.